Wes, how were you able to let that go? How were you able to move past all the abuse, all the distortion, so that you can be the change agent for good that you are today?
Well, I can tell you that it wasn't easy. It couldn't have been done in my own strength. I don't know what Satan knows. I don't know how much of the future he might have a sense of, but I'm pretty sure as that little boy in that village and at that school, I must have had a bullseye on my chest this big, because he attacked me with everything he could attack, determined to destroy me. And he did succeed in destroying most of my friends. I'm one of the few who still loves the Lord, still walking with the Lord. But the path out of that pain was age 17, the first time I understood the concept of forgiveness. Someone said to a group of us, you know, some people have hurt you very, very deeply. You're carrying them around in their heart. They are dominating your life. They may not even remember what they did to you. They're not even sorry. And you are letting them live rent-free in your heart. And you are the only one paying the bill. You're the only one in any kind of pain over this. You will never move forward unless you forgive. So, age 17, still with clenched teeth, I said, all right, you people, I know you're not sorry. I know you will never apologize, but I refuse to carry you in my heart anymore. I forgive you. Now get out. Get out of my head. You know, get out of my heart. You get out of my life. You totally messed up my childhood. I will not carry you forward to mess up the rest of my life. You stole my past. You can't have my future. Pretty crude forgiveness, but it's the best I could do.
Wes, your courageous stand accomplished what you hoped as such a young boy. That school is in ruins today.
It's gone, yep.
And you've become a watchdog for this kind of injustice.
It turned out that was my Masada. I retreated no further than that. And it was his Waterloo, as well as the demise of that school. A new school was built very, very quickly in the Ivory Coast, and we were all transferred down there with house parents who were called and wanted to be there with us. But yes, this same kind of hurt and abuse I have discovered was going on in schools all across the world, boarding schools like this. Satan's fingerprints all over, the same vocabulary being said in some other places. If you tell, there will be Bolivians, Brazilians in hell because of you. Satan had a thread going there. In retrospect, I'm thinking to myself, what was it about? Well, he was trying to destroy the missionary effort in Africa. And as always, he attacked the weakest, most vulnerable. So if you're going to destroy missionaries' work, well, destroy their children. And as always, you know, children are the ones that get sacrificed.
You accomplished this great task of forgiveness with God's help. But you didn't tell anyone about this for 35 years?
No, I was
Not
serious.
even your wife?
I was serious when I said, you stole my past, you can't have my future. So I left that behind and I went forward. I got into compassion, fighting for children on every front, rose up through the ranks of compassion, got all the way to president of compassion before this surfaced in the lives of my friends. They hadn't done so well. They hadn't discovered forgiveness. And they became very angry. We're putting together a class action suit, and we're determined to bring that mission down for what it had done to them. And contacted me since I had achieved a bit of a position and said, can you help us get revenge? And they sent me a folder of their letters that they had written to themselves, poetry. They were damaged, hurting not young people, they're in their 50s by now. I laid on the couch in my living room reading the words of my childhood friends whose lives had been destroyed. And I just burst into tears. I could hardly read the words. And my poor wife, who I had never said a word to about this, was across the room, and she looked over her book at me for a while, and she said, something I don't know, huh, Wes? And I said, yeah. Don, I've tried to protect you from this, but I've got a lot of hurt in my past, and I've got friends who hurt even more, and I'm probably going to have to go back into the battle on their behalf. And I did.
It's the opening story in just a minute. What does a minute have to do with something you endured for years?
Yeah. Well, that candle burned for a minute, and my life got launched in spite of that great pain in that minute. The book that you're talking about is a book that I've just written. I believe that the spirit of a child is a lot like wet cement, easily impressed. And I maintain if you have even a minute with a child, you might be the one to say the right thing, do the right thing, to launch their lives. You know, if you see a little child go by, you should put your hard hat on. You're in a construction zone, and you should ask, what is God building? It's 68 stories of people who can point to the minute, the person who did something to launch their lives. But as you can imagine with my history, I know this, you can destroy a life just as fast in 60 seconds. So in there is the story of my candle, which was 90 seconds. There's the story of Adolf Hitler, the 60 seconds in his life at age 11, where he went from an innocent choir boy to a monster because of 1 minute of abuse from a horrible drunken father. It doesn't excuse what he did. It doesn't forgive the horror of what this man wreaked on the world, but it does help you explain a little of where he came from, and it almost makes it predictable. Powerful stories in there, both good and bad.
In the heart of a child, one moment can last forever. One sweet moment, very close to your heart. You have 2 daughters. Tell us about your eldest and a very special minute.
Well, I'll tell you, because it's a good example of the power of a minute. I've got 2 wonderful daughters. They're grown now, but when my oldest, Jenny, was 4 years old, she was a rascal. She was the queen of staying up late, and she was far smarter than myself and Donna. So we fell for her little tricks, you know, one more glass of water, one more this, one more that, prayers that would never end at bedtime. So we were on to her tricks. And one day it was bedtime, and she was up in her room quite quiet. And I was exhausted and preoccupied. I was reading a magazine, really tired. When all of a sudden, out of nowhere, into the living room prances this beautiful ballerina, all arms and legs, you know, and a big pink tutu and a tiara on her head. And she jumped nimbly up onto our coffee table and struck a pose and said, "Ta-da!" And I drew in a breath to say, "Very funny, Jenny. Now go get your pajamas on." When for some reason in that minute I didn't.
You did not say that.
I did not. I reached up instead and I grabbed a pole lamp and I put the spotlight on her. And in fun, I rolled up my magazine and I said, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the beautiful, the talented Jenny Stafford." Well, she twirled and danced up on that coffee table, in a performance of a lifetime. And in her mind, she was like on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera. And when she was done, you know, the audience went nuts. You know, we applauded, standing ovation, you know, both of us, her mother and I. But it was the moment her dream got launched. I had a front row seat to watch this little girl. Wow, she couldn't get enough drama all through grade school. In high school, she was Dolly in Hello, Dolly. In college, she was Guinevere in Camelot. She got her graduate degree in music theater. Not enough, went off to New York University, got her master's degree from the Tisch School of Performing Arts, and now she does work at the Metropolitan Opera in Manhattan.
She's a teaching artist.
She's a teaching artist, so teachers who want to teach drama come to her to learn how to do that in the children in their schools, their high schools, their colleges.
What
But
a
I was
sweet
there
story.
the minute it launched.
What a sweet story. And we underestimate so often those divine appointments, you call them. And you connect the letters to sponsored children with this
it's the
minute,
same
this
thing.
powerful encouragement.
We get over 1 million sponsors. They don't get a minute with their child. Very few of them get to meet them face to face, but they write letters. And I've discovered that the power of a single sentence in a letter can launch the future of a child. And so, yeah, a minute, a sentence makes an impact on the cement of a child's soul, and you can launch the life. I maintain every child around you is a divine appointment.
Wes, I can't miss this because it's both good news and bad news, but the outcome is part of the, well, as someone said, sweet poetic justice of your life story, a Joseph story. There was a time when you mumbled. You were afraid to articulate words, which is hard to believe because I said, you should be doing radio. You've been doing radio for
radio.
years with such beautiful diction and presentation. But that's another rescue in your life.
That almost got destroyed in me. You have to understand, age 6 again, in that horrible boarding school where every grown-up was a dangerous person. We were like little hunted animals. The thing you did was avoid grown-ups. Nothing good could come from eye contact with a grown-up. Nothing good could come from engaging in conversation with a grown-up. And so I learned to just walk with my head down. I learned to mumble my words. I wrote my letters in almost a straight line. Why? Because I didn't think anybody would care what I thought. And my first grade teacher, Mrs. Long, at one moment in rage at this mumbling little boy that wouldn't make eye contact with her, grabbed me by the shirt, picked me right up out of my desk and screamed in my face, spit on my face, I remember. She screamed, "Enunciate, you little idiot!" and threw me back down in my chair. She never asked me, "Why don't you enunciate?" She didn't care that I had a totally damaged spirit. Well, I grew up, I forgave. I had my minute with the candle and turned into a broadcaster. And I remember the first time, I have a couple of radio programs. One of them is Speak Up with Compassion on like 800 radio stations across the world. And I remember the first time I was driving along in my car and I heard my own voice on the radio. And my first thought was, well, there you go, Miss Long. Your little idiot is making his living enunciating. It's amazing what God can redeem. I am a product purely of God's grace. If he can use me in his kingdom, he can use anyone.
Dr. Wess Stafford, thank you so much.
Thank you.